Kevin here from Invisible Insights. I hope you're doing well. And today in this training, we're going to talk about what does it mean to become a great number two. And there's a lot of speculation and confusion and questions around what makes a number two and how do you become a number two? And is it something that just happens to you? Does someone just say you're a number two? What does it look like to become a great second in charge, or position yourself to be a great second in charge, or develop yourself to be a great second in charge? And we're going to unpack that today. We're going to take a look at all the dynamics and the frameworks and some of the frustrations and the elements that really go into building that level of awareness and that level of assessment and that level of articulation and that level of action when it comes to becoming a great number two. Because those four elements, that's four, I'll put four up there, not eight, it's four. So those four elements are really part of really thinking through this. Although those four elements are not in the slides, I want you to be thinking that way. And really, I think this is probably another training we'll have coming up. But that level of awareness, that level of assessment. Am I assessing? Am I articulating? Am I communicating? And am I acting consistently with what I want to become and the level that I want to go to is incredibly important for anybody with a performance mindset, for someone who wants to go to another level, for someone who wants to position themselves to have more influence and make more money, to really be the person, the type of person that whenever something opens up, they say, why not you? Why not your name? Let's give them a chance. And those positionings that we do along our life and our career provide us pivots and opportunities to learn and grow and develop and be able to have the kind of life that we want to live and lead at a level that we want to lead at and influence in a powerful way in organizations or in our communities or in our families, wherever that is. These are the things, these are the elements that we're going to unpack. It's very fundamental, it's very focused, and yet it's very important that we understand, so we build that awareness so you can have that level of assessment. And that way, as you're aware and you're assessing, you're kind of processing all that kind of stuff, which is good, and you're kind of putting it where it needs to go so that you don't overfunction, or in some cases where I see some people just kind of get real sideways and try to, microwave their positioning, when in reality, it really is about building trust and establishing that very clearly in your leadership and in your life. There has to be congruence between what you say and what you do and how people experience you. It is the combination of those things, and we're going to get really specific. We're going to get really clear. So you ready to dig into this thing? Let's dig in. We're going to pull this up. I'm going to show up there in the corner. So yes, being a great number two is really important. And so it's really also important for us to understand that a lot of times there's not, essentially 16%, there's not a lot of organizations that really are committed to this thinking. And it's important that we understand that, because if you're frustrated, this is probably the reason why. If you're kind of going, look, they keep hiring from the outside and da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, I hear a lot of that as a coach, and as I coach a number of individuals and companies, these are some of those frustrations that come out. And a lot of it is because the organization itself hasn't really set the mindset in place where they're consistently investing time and energy and dollars and attention to develop internal succession. And you heard me say this in the program many times. Success is succession. When you have somebody as a leader and you train other people beneath you to be able to do what you do, your value does not go down. People are afraid of that. And you should not be, because if you have the ability to teach people what you do at a high level, I will guarantee you will always have a job. Anyone worth their salt would see the value in that and have you pivoting somewhere else so you could do that again and again and again. Because the more people that we have that have the same level of skill and intelligence and focus and energy and results, all those things that come out in you and through you as you expand that in the company, that's what they're valuing. Sometimes we get so off kilter when we go, it's about me knowing the most about what I do. And I'm telling you, that's a trap. That's a trap, because what we do is we hoard We hold on to our experience. We don't want anyone to know for fear that if someone else knows, they would take my job. When the reality is, it's such small thinking. It's your ability to, here's a crazy thing. We think they want, the people above us and all that, they want me, okay? What I'm doing is what's important. How I'm doing what I'm doing is most important. What they're valuing is, can you get others to be another you? They're more about how, not what. And when you can jump into that, you begin to start changing that number, because you can influence that 16% by just simply raising the temperature in your own level and sphere of influence around people that you work with and that you're training. Because a lot of times in organizations, if you're working on the floor anywhere in manufacturing, or even if you're in the office and you're doing technical work, there's always the ability to cross-train and teach someone else what you know and what you do. And it's so much of replicating how you do, the attitude, how much you care, and the energy that you bring. All those things are factors that play into this. And so I want to encourage you, don't hoard your knowledge. Don't hold it tight, because you will become dispensable at that point. You're indispensable when you can basically take all that and insert that into another person and help that person grow. So now they got two of you. And now they're going to go, hey, we got to find another place for this dude to go and help make a difference. Trust me, they will do this. And you have a way to affect this number. This isn't a sad story of people who don't care. This is an opportunity for you to bring something to your organization that maybe they don't see yet. And you're going to raise their level of awareness and cause them moments of assessment. And then they're going to come to you and ask for some articulation. And then when it comes time to take action, they're going to go, will you take some action? So I just want you to know this. This is not a sad story. This is actually an activator, and I want it to activate you. So activate in the realm of that whole idea of, hey, I don't need the organization to tell me. I can bring value to the organization without being paid for it up front, knowing that if I position myself, lots of good things live on the other side. You ready to keep going? So let's keep going. So what is the one thing that prevents emerging leaders from becoming strong number twos? Just that we talked about a second ago. Sometimes there's number ones, okay? Number ones can do that. We're going to talk a little bit about that later. But emerging leaders who fail to commit to growth and contribution. And guess what? Those two are needs of us. Personal human needs of growth and contribution are important to us. And I will tell you, I'm selling that way here, kids. Whenever you're pouring out yourself, when you're emptying your cup, listen, you don't have to fill anybody's cup, friend. All you got to do is empty yours. If they're smart people, they'll fill up. They'll do stuff on their own. But if you empty your cup, and that's commitment to growth. That's I'm going to continue to learn. I'm going to continue to get better. But I'm going to empty my cup. I'm going to contribute to others. Because there's a difference. Performance is expected in your role. There's a difference between performance and contribution. Contribution is when you make everything better. So I just want to encourage you again. This is such a huge opportunity. Leverage into this because this is so vital. Make sure that I'm committing to growth. I'm going to understand how I do what I do better, and I'm going to do it in a way that I can teach it to others. I'm going to document my SOPs. I'm going to know all my systems. I'm going to make it easier to transfer. I'm going to document things. I'm going to put things in a certain order to make things easier to do. All those things are part of that growth and that contribution, which feeds your soul. It feeds you. That's that whole idea of significance and impact and the difference that you make. There's just a sweet spot that we get in as people. And that is when we're in that growth and contribution world, there's nothing better. So I want to encourage you, grow, learn, and contribute at the highest levels possible. So let's move on, because that's one key element that I want to focus on. And here we're going to focus and we're going to shift on another one here, and it's minding the gap. Now, this piece of it is really important, and because a lot of us self-sabotage. And we don't always, number ones do it all the time, number twos do it too. And we fall for the time in trap. And the time in trap is doing today what I did yesterday, hoping to get paid more for tomorrow. And so all of a sudden, we're just kind of going on the hamster wheel. And 1 year turns into two, and two turns into five, and five turns into 10. And all of a sudden, we're somewhere 15 years. And all of a sudden, guess what? This whippersnapper comes, it's been about 3 years. Now he's your boss. And we're all mad because we didn't grow and we didn't contribute, right? We got stuck in that pivot. And so we just kind of just doing our thing, thinking our value is in the do part, but not the who part, not the what we bring to the table and help others succeed. No. We get stuck in that. I'm just doing my thing and nobody touch my stuff. And that's my machine, or that's my welder, or that's my truck, or whatever it is that you do. And we get into that whole closed mindset. And all of a sudden, you sit down with your boss and you're going, hey, I've been here for 15 years. And your boss is going to look at you and say, yeah, it's been year 2 13 times. And you're going to go, oh. And it's going to be real quiet. And then then you'll probably get a little bit upset. And then you're going to think about like, well, maybe I just need to go work somewhere else or someone who would appreciate what I know. Yeah, and you'll do that. And that will be for a little while until you get on another hamster wheel. So why don't we just get off this thing? I'm just going to coach you up right here and right now. It's time to break the cycle. It's time to get off that thinking and get into the whole idea of growth and contribution. And you need to get in there, but we got to mind the gap. And there's a gap, and we got to see it. And when we see it, we got to call it to ourselves, and then we got to do something about it. And if you need a coach, you need to ask for a coach. If you say, hey, I need listen, there's probably guys in the organization who can coach you. It's not like you go hire a coach. You don't have to do that, especially when there are guys who are really doing a good job of that. You just need to know who they are, and you need to talk with them, and you need to ask them, hey, can you share with me what you're doing? Can I learn from you? And guess what? That's called growth. And that growth will inspire you to see the world bigger than you currently are, because you're not seeing it very big like this. And when you see the world the way you need to see the world, then you can make the difference the way you need to make a difference. And then that level of generosity kicks in. And there's nothing like it. Listen, there's a little invisible with generosity. And there's a lot of, when you give it without expecting anything in return, you get things in return. It's kind of funny that way. When we give it to get something, and then it's weird. But when we just are generous, in its truest sense, there's a reciprocity that comes from that in a lot of levels. And I just want to encourage you to experience that circle of good that comes back when we give our best to others. And we want to encourage them to succeed. And I can tell you time and time again, guys I've coached who have really accelerated the growth of others. And eventually, in its own day and time, it comes back. And it comes back 10x. Sowing and reaping. It's sowing and reaping. And so it's so powerful. So remember, sowing and reaping, okay, always comes back later and greater. And so lean into that. So let's keep going. So number ones can be a great source of sabotage as well. Okay. Yes, they can. And often it's without knowing. Some it's unintentional, but it's frustrating them nonetheless. So here's an interesting list, because I ask people all over the place, hey, what are the highest levels of this? And I get a lot of feedback on this one. I get a lot of high scores on micromanaging. I get a whole lot of high scores on undermining authority, or refusing to delegate, or failing to provide feedback. But one of the biggest ones that's often said, people don't realize that's probably one of the number ones, is the withholding information one. Which does that look like for you? Let's talk about this for a second, and it's going to be a little bit of a rhetorical type of experience here with me. But what is your number one frustration with your number one? Do they micromanage a whole lot? And how do you handle that? Do you talk about that with them? Micromanaging is always a great opportunity to talk about trust. Undermining authority, that's another one. Do you trust me? Do you trust my knowledge? Withholding information is sometimes, again, it's unknown. They don't really think that they're withholding information, but it comes in the form of a delegation of something, and you don't have all the information. You make a decision, you have a plan, you start to do it, and then they're kind of that halfway dissatisfied look, and you feel kind of judged, And you're kind of going, well, why are you not happy with it? And then they tell you why, and you go, why wouldn't you just tell me that up front? And we have that sometimes. And sometimes it's not on purpose. It's not like you're trying to sabotage you intentionally, but hey, asking for all the information, asking really compelling questions, even if they get a little bit, growly around it, even if there's a little bit of when they're answering, it's okay. Ask questions. Get the information that you need. I always tell people, get the final 10% of the information. And even if it comes back a little grumbly, it's okay. Hey, them refusing to delegate, especially when you see someone who's overwhelmed, you know what? Sometimes that's about asking for help, asking them to help them. I'm sorry. They need to ask for help. But I mean, it's that whole idea of refusing to delegate is that fear that, and again, if they're in this mode, okay, if they're in a hoarding mode and you're kind of seeing that, it's going to be a tough conversation. But hey, I can help you. I'm not looking about getting the credit for this. You can get all the credit. Let me help you. What's the best way I can help you with that? Offering to do that. And then obviously asking for feedback. Sometimes we just want them to come and find us, and we're not always asking. And then all of a sudden, when we don't get the full kind of feedback, we don't ask and we don't ask and we don't ask. And then finally, when they say something like, just good job. And we're kind of going like, dude, oh yeah, it's good job for that. Like I put a lot of time and energy in. Well, maybe you need to ask. So there are ways that we can be proactive about dealing with these frustrations. I just want to encourage you to, as an emerging leader, to be able to run to these. You have to get good at this, friends, because this stuff doesn't go away. At every level that I coach at, in any organization I coach in, we always are banging into some version of this kind of sabotage and frustration. It's just very real. So have the conversations, walk across the room, set up the meeting, and say, hey, I have a question, and I don't want you to be offended, but man, I feel like you're undermining my authority, and I'm wondering if you trust me. And they might be like, I didn't know I was doing that. Well, then you have to walk them through what it looks like, because sometimes they can't see it. So can we just right now raise your hand and say, Kevin, I promise to do the best I can to approach these things and have real conversations with my leader when they come up in real time. Not waiting till next week. It's going to be so much better when you say, hey, time out, just like a coach in a basketball game. And I get it. There are probably good times and bad times. So keep your emotional intelligence going. So do not kick the door of your boss, down and say, hey, we got to talk about something. The ball guy said we got to do wrong answer. You have to pick your shots but do it quickly. Don't let it drag out and don't let it build up, because most of the time when I'm coaching individuals, this stuff is built up. And now I've got 9 incidences of this, 10 incidences of this. And now we're working through all of the crap that we say to ourselves, that we've had all the imaginary conversations in the car on the way home, right? You've had them, and I've had them. So lessons learned, run to it, don't run from it. Let's keep going. So in this part, we're going to get real, because it is all about you. And let me tell you something, and this is a huge invisible, and if you don't remember anything else from this training, you got to remember this. You need to have a personal vision big enough that's going to require you to prioritize your development, your growth. So when you start looking at your vision, hey, I'm in a company, I'm working in an organization. The organization provides me with all the opportunities. I want to look at every opportunity and see how I can be the best version of myself in the context of this. You need to write it out. You need to articulate it. You need to share it with a friend or your spouse or your significant other. You need to sit down and hammer this stuff out in a very real way and get it out of your head and through your lips and on paper so you can see it. Because most of the time when I coach individuals, they're thinking way too small. They think about how much money they want to make. Wrong answer. It's about the level of influence and impact and growth and contribution you can make, because the money follows beyond anything you would even think of when you have those four things. So all I'm saying, that vision needs to be about, hey, what kind of impact I want to make? What kind of growth do I want to accomplish? What kind of skills I want to learn? What kind of difference do I want to make in my department? What kind of level of influence and impact, all those things. You just keep writing out that outcome of what you want to accomplish. That is your vision for that. And listen, it's not just about work. Have a vision for life and difference you want to make in the world and in the lives of your children. Lots of ways to do this. So I want to encourage you to go down that road. But the second part of it is this too. The organization, okay, is key, and that has a vision too. And what you want to make sure that you're doing is you want to make sure that your vision connects with your leader's vision. In other words, does my growth and contribution and impact and influence, all of that, does that help this bigger vision? And if it helps this bigger vision, is that something I can give my life to? Is that something I can park myself around and be engaged in? Because if you can do that, if you can find that place, that's huge, because that's a marriage between your day job and eventually pursuing it in such a way that it expands to impact your dreams and the difference that you want to make, not just in the plant you're in, but in the world that you live in, the community, all those things. And listen, there are a lot of organizations that are community minded. There's a lot of organizations that are globally minded in terms of making a difference and going on trips and helping in devastated areas to rebuild and bringing the expertise of what they do to the community they live in terms of supporting projects and nonprofits all over the place. There's all kinds of really good opportunities to just extend that reach and bring your kids along for the ride in that too. That's a beautiful thing. So vision is really important. And if you want a homework assignment, this is the big one right here. Get into that part, because then all of a sudden your growth and your contribution comes along with some purpose. It comes along and is connected to that purpose. And then that affects your presence. And that presence affects a lot of other things in the company. Or in the organization you're in. So let's keep moving forward. Now, it's important that we're strategic, intentional, and disciplined when it comes to this. So developing a vision, we're going to talk about building a framework, schedule. Man, you got to schedule your growth. That means how you read and maybe a class that you take, or there's all kind. I have some clients that say, hey, I want to be a better public speaker. So they went to their boss and they told them I want to be a better public speaker. And their boss said, hey, what if I paid for a Dale Carnegie course for you? Dale Carnegie courses are off the charts. I mean, they do some damage. And those are expensive. And you know what? If your boss would make that investment in you, think about your level of articulation and your communication level. They will benefit directly from that. And that is a huge thing. But again, the key is you got to put that growth on your calendar, and you got to bring consistent added value behaviors. You got to add value every single day. How? Not just performance, but contribution, because it paves the way to influence and opportunity. So being strategic, have those conversations with your supervisor or your boss. Be intentional. Make sure that you're paying attention to your vision and that you're looking through a framework. I'm going to give you one here to work on. I'll give you some stuff to work on here. And then being disciplined, sticking with it, and not riding the emotional roller coaster of drama that often happens in organizations. Don't participate in that sideways energy, because it's not good. It's not good for you. It's not good for the organization. Good so far? Let's keep going. So what you do at the company matters. And again, you want to make sure that the quality and experience that everyone else has in working with you is exceptional. You want to make sure you're connecting with others and making them better. And then you'll stand out. You'll go beyond the whole frustrated part. When you add value, when you look at the left side of value and the level of connection that you have, when you do those two things, it is off the charts. That communication, that contribution, it matters. And I'm talking about influence, friends, and influence is key. People will listen to you. And when they listen to you, they'll respond to what it is that you're laying out. And it is so important that you do that. So just make sure that you're driving down that road, because it's so powerful that you're doing that thing, and keep doing it. And then all of a sudden, let's go on to the next one. So becoming skills. So there are 5 of them: developing strong communication skills, building strong relationships with colleagues, being adaptable and flexible, showing initiative and leadership, and focusing on continuous learning and development. Friends, I cannot tell you enough how critically important this is, that you do this, that you see this. Because if you can work on those 5 becoming skills, that strong communication, with communicating effectively to the team and up and down in the organization, being adaptable and flexible, and that means, hey, my answers to things are yes. I'm saying yes to what they're asking me. And if it conflicts into something else where I made a promise, I'm communicating that conflict. What's the best way for me to handle that so that I can do for you what I want to do for you? And instead of just like making a weird face when someone's asking you to do something that's overwhelming. Doesn't have to be overwhelming if you have a conversation about how to make it not overwhelming. So again, the communication does pave the way to being adaptable and flexible. And then building strong relationships. And that means, hey, it means being intentional about who you eat lunch with too, getting to know people, circulating with purpose and asking people, hey, what are you doing? What are you working on? How can I help you? And then showing initiative and leadership and raising your hand when there's an opportunity to be on a group that's working on a process improvement, or somebody who's going through the organization saying, hey, we're doing some lean projects or a Kaizen event or whatever goes on in your organization for, continuous improvement practices and projects. Get involved. Get in the game. Don't be a participant, not observer. And then obviously you got to be working on you. And guess what? That means, hey, are you reading some good stuff? Are you, listening to podcasts, which a lot of people do? Getting into some of these courses that we have on the platform, I would encourage you to do that. There's a lot of good stuff there. Keep learning and growing. Build that awareness, build that assessment, build that articulation, and build that level of action. That's key. So let me give you some skills here to really dig into, because these are the skills. So if you want to listen to podcasts or read books, these are the skills that you can read about. You can watch YouTube videos, which are phenomenal. You could probably type in accountability on YouTube, boom, bunch of videos. Delegation on YouTube, bunch of videos. Planning an organization, bunch of videos. YouTube is like the University of Digital World, USA, unbelievable explosion of information. Just get into some of that. 1 video, 2 videos. It doesn't have to be like you read a whole 500-page book. And if you wanted to know how to read, we have a whole thing on how to read a book in here. So go into the platform and dig into that and find that. But hey, these are the framework skills. So leadership, starting from the bottom up, communication, problem solving, adaptability, time management, people skills, planning an organization, delegation, accountability. Now, let me tell you something. You're looking at these and that's a lot there, right? But let me tell you something. There's probably 2 or 3 of them that you would go, right here, right now, if I improve those 3 things, they would make a 50% difference in my job. They would make a 50% difference in my happiness at work and my ability to influence things. It'd make a 50% difference in terms of my organization or follow-up or communication, whatever that is. Pick 3. Pick 3. Pick 1. I would take 1. Take 1 and just go to YouTube and watch some videos just for 1 and make that you time, your growth time, and prioritize that. Do that once, maybe twice a week, and see if it doesn't increase your awareness and develop that in a very powerful way. Because I think what you're going to find is when that happens, you're going to all of a sudden have a little more energy. And like we talk about, when you have clarity, you have energy, you will have courage. Your hand will go up for a project. You'll lean in, you'll communicate a little stronger. That real-time confrontation you have to do with one of those sabotages, you'll step right into and say, hey, I think we need to talk about this. And I think that there's some trust issues that we need to work through. And all of a sudden, how you handle yourself, how you present yourself, all of a sudden rises up in the eyes of the people who are leading you. And it will position you. And then as they're looking for number 2s, that's gonna show up a little bit like this. Hey, so and so, we were talking the other day, and we are looking for someone to be a lead, or we're looking, hey, we like what you're doing here. We would love to have you come over here and basically shadow so and so, so you could, it's going to come in some subtle way, just like that. And if you just say, hey, I appreciate you thinking of me, and I want to do the best, and I value your trust, and I want to bring my best self to that, I would love to help out with that in any way that I can. And you know what? You need me to train somebody beneath me to help, so we don't lose a whole lot of, success or throughput or results on this side. I'll take some time and do that so I can make sure I can fully, make the most of that investment you're making in me. If you can do that and you lean into that, I am telling you, you will be positioned. And when that opportunity comes, and you're gonna, and that ask will come, it's gonna come with a lot of good things behind it too. And you're gonna feel like $1 million. You're gonna feel like you're ready to take this on. And there's a difference that happens when there's a level of confidence and personal competence that I can bring my best self to any situation they ask me to do. And I can figure it out. I don't have to know everything, but I know how to learn. I know how to grow. I know how to connect. I know how to articulate. I know how to communicate. You know what I'm saying? Now you know where I'm going with this. When you start, all those skills come together and you're saying, I got this. I can do that. And all of a sudden, you start writing a new story. And that story is one of growth and contribution and influence and impact. And all of a sudden, I'm telling you, just like we talked about how like 1 year turns into 2 and 2 turns into 5 and 5 turns into 10 and all that, guess what? It's a different journey. It's one of a little of growth and a little bit of chaos, and then massive growth and a little bit of chaos, because you got to learn to grow. And all of a sudden you start realizing real quick that if I just started making some changes about right when I'm figuring out, and I go through a little bit of chaos, I got to get good at chaos. Wow, I'm really good at that. And every opportunity they give me is jumping into some of that chaos, but they trust me with it. And when they trust me with it, they believe in me. And that belief in you is powerful, because you will level up. You will be on a trajectory. It's no longer a hamster wheel. It's a path. So I just want to encourage you, stay glued to the whole concept of growth and contribution. Make a difference and level up. Grow in your awareness. Grow in the assessment. Grow in the articulation, communication, and grow in the action. And I'm telling you, you're going to be somewhere you really like. So I hope you're doing well. Stay encouraged and continue to strive to be a great number 2. Number 1s, we're all great number 2s at some point in time in their life. It just happens that way. So take care, and we'll see you next time.